Everyone, this is update for June 22, 2022, day 119 of the war, end of the date update. So we're gonna talk today about Lithuania again, then we're gonna discuss a little bit titanium and how it affects potentially all of us, and then we're gonna just mention about the attack of Ukrainian UAV at the refinery. So just since it's very short news, so Russia has a refinery near this town Shakhty, which there's town Novoshakhtinsk. So today in the morning, Ukrainian armed forces attacked that refinery with very simple UAV, and that UAV just some people speculate it's like UAV from off AliExpress for like about $9,000 or $10,000. So what it did, it attacked the oil refinery. The attack was not quite successful. It hit a heat exchanger, and the sort of area of damage was pretty small, so it was quickly localized. So that's kind of just news about that. And then now let's actually go back to Lithuania. So what the confrontation escalates there, as everybody probably knows and sees on TV. However, we just want to give some more details about what's going on there. So we mentioned about railroad transportation. Now it's also Lithuania closed roads to the sanctioned goods, and as we discussed before, it means essentially pretty much everything. So it's not only the railroad. Now Russia cannot even use the regular roads. And then the next logical step would be natural gas. So there is a natural gas pipeline that supplies natural gas, obviously from Russia through Lithuania to Kaliningrad region. And so that is something that technically should be sanctioned. So we would not be surprised if Lithuania stops passage of Russian natural gas to Kaliningrad, and that obviously will create extremely difficult condition in that region. So as we discussed, the only viable option at this point is sea transportation, but that's going to be super expensive. There is no LNG terminals. There is nothing of that nature. So it remains to be seen how it's going to get resolved, because Russia openly said that they will do some non-diplomatic actions towards Lithuania. One of the actions that they probably will do, that's sort of easy to do for them, is simply disconnect Lithuania from Russian power grid line, because Lithuania used to buy electricity not from Russia but from Belarus, which obviously essentially it's one state. So essentially they will not get any more power from Belarus. Based on our information, they're not terribly reliable on that power at this point. They used to rely very heavily, but it all remains seen where it's all gonna go there. But that's clearly the conflict there is growing and potentially could escalate to something bigger. So that's about Lithuania. Now one more topic is titanium. This is a light metal, very sort of high quality metal. The advantage of this metal over steel is that it's much lighter than steel, and then it's corrosion resistant. And it has many properties similar to steel. So now the Airbus is sort of pleading European Union to stop sanctions on Russian titanium, because in its sort of overall consumption, Russian titanium is about 65%. So you can imagine that it's heavily dependent on that. Basically, all of the worldwide aircraft building is dependent on Russian titanium. The same, it also goes true for Boeing, except the Boeing was a little bit more sort of savvy, and they stocked up a lot of Russian titanium. so they kind of okay for now. But if this war lasts longer, they may not be okay. Plus, they have, as far as we know, they have problems with their orders, so they don't produce as much of aircraft as they could. So they don't feel sort of urgency to have more titanium. So just to explain how it's all also related to this war, is that Russia controls 30% of the world titanium market, and titanium is used not only in aircraft building, it's also used in a ship building because it's corrosion resistant and it's able to withstand high temperature. So it's better, it's better than aluminium in terms of it can withstand higher heat, and then it's also kind of better in many ways than steel. Not quite, in some ways it's not as good, but in many ways it's there. Basically, it's kind of like has its own unique niche among the metals, and so what it's also used. It's used also in medical industry as a transplant. So, like if you have implant, not transplant, sorry, implant. So, like if you have a tooth implant, more likely than not, you have titanium sort of spin there or core there in your implant. And then it's also used in many other ways in medical industry. Then it's used as a pigment, titanium dioxide. Hopefully I say this right in English, but basically it's a TiO2, TiO2, I guess, is a pigment. It's a white color, so it's used in many areas where you need white color, like paints, things like that. So white paints. So it's very widely used pretty much everywhere, and then also in machine building in many applications. So that may affect the sort of, again, another hit to the worldwide supply chains and production in many ways. And the sort of interesting how it's all related to Ukraine is actually that Russia. So basically, you need you have titanium ore that you basically refine. So titanium, Russia gets almost all of titanium ore from Ukraine, and so there are couple areas where Ukraine has it. One is in north of this Zhytomyr region here, north of Kherson, in this area. So that's like there are a couple big deposits there, and then also here in Dnipro region as well. So those were almost exclusive supplier of titanium ore to Russia. So obviously now supply stopped. Ukraine also produced titanium dioxide in Sumy here, and then Ukraine also produced small amount of titanium as metal in Zaporizhia, but this plant was basically government owned, poorly run, and basically was run into the ground by the government essentially. And then there was also there is still another producer here in northern Crimea of titanium dioxide that Russia captured in 2014. But so you kind of get the picture about the whole situation and how it may affect, everybody in many ways. So now let's actually move to the walk through the front line. Let's do it in a clockwise fashion, and let's start from the very north. So again, there was exchange of artillery fire here. Russia also claims that Ukrainian reconnaissance group attacked Russian border patrol, and which was using BTR, and killed for Russian soldiers. We don't have any confirmation. We're just kind of giving you at the face value what we're seeing there. Now let's move south and see what's going on east of Kharkiv. So situation here is sort of the same here, no essential changes, low intensity fighting, basically things here on pause, on hold. because all of the attention, as we all know, is on Severodonetsk salient, which we'll get in a second. But let's first discuss quickly what's going on here on Izyum bridgehead. So situation also stable here, no essential changes. There is some fighting in Boghorodechne, Krasnopilya, and Dolina. There's Russian pressure, but it's nothing similar to what it used to be. So situation here more or less sort of like medium intensity fighting, let's put this way. Now let's actually move to Severodonetsk salient, because that's where things are going. That's where everybody, both sides are, transferring all of their reserves. That's where the sort of both sides hope to achieve some kind of victory, or in Ukrainian case, not to lose. So Severodonetsk still holds on. Ukrainian troops there still holding on despite of all of the problems with the logistics. They're still able to hold on there. Now let's actually look what's going on here in this call it Zolote Peninsula. So what we do know for a fact is that Russian troops made another progress. They captured this village, Ray-Oleksandrivka, which we mentioned yesterday, that their last remaining field road that was sort of feeding Ukrainian troops here was going through there. So that's what we know for sure. The rest is actually, and let's actually look at this area a little bit. This is how it looked yesterday, and then this is what's going on today. So as you can see, they captured this also Loskutne, but it's more critical that they captured Ray-Oleksandrivka. So as you can see, this is essentially encirclement here. We don't have confirmation if Russian troops actually managed to close this bottleneck here completely, or they just got through this Ray-Oleksandrivka and that's it. So this is sort of where right now we don't have firm information. What we have is the following: is based on our information that's not 100% confirmed, is that Ukrainian troops withdrew from this pocket last night, right? So this all is, the Ukrainian troops basically withdrew from all of this area, from Irske, Zolote, everything, and basically the front line will kind of be going somewhere around here going forward. So this is most probable based on our information. However, it's possible that they still sort of stuck there defending, and then where it's not clear in that case to us whether Russian troops completely closed this bottleneck here. That's something we don't have firm confirmation at this point. So what we think would happen is that that Ukrainian troops withdrew from here, and essentially Russian troops obviously closed this gap, and obviously they sort of cleaning up, mopping up this whole area. This is sort of most probable scenario. As we said, we don't have sort of high quality confirmation about the evacuation of this peninsula. So that's why we will find out in a day or two, because if Ukrainian troops stayed here and Russian, obviously, if it wasn't closed, it will be closed, on the 23rd for sure, this gap. And so then Ukrainian troops will be trapped here. And in that case, we'll find out if there are a lot of prisoners of war. It will be very clear that there was significant amount, that Ukrainian troops did not manage to evacuate. But all of the evidence we have so far is to the supports that Ukrainian troops evacuated. But as we said, we don't have 100% confirmation. Otherwise, situation here is more or less stable in this area, where the most dangerous is Bilogorivka, Berestove, and Mykolaievka. It's still holding on. Yakovlivka still holding on. So essentially, Russian troops did not make any progress, except they obviously have almost. We can give them sort of credit that they essentially captured this area. It's just a question of day or two before it will be totally under their control. Then if we move a little bit south, what's going on here is no new progress by Wagner mercenaries. So they were stopped in this Klinova here on outskirts. There was another attempt to attack Semihiria here and kind of like sort of go kind of south and basically try to even like kind of like split this potential pocket into two pieces and chew up like smaller piece. But that was not successful, as we discussed. There is a very, let's say, a very motivated, high quality, very well trained battalion here that was brought in as reserve, as sort of reserve for the 30th Brigade. So it operates in this area. So for now, this area is more or less, call it, safe and stable. Now let's keep going. This is just a quicker look. So this is this power plant that's being defended by Ukrainian troops, and then this village Semihiria. So the attacks are kind of going sort of south with the idea of potentially just kind of cutting, trapping Ukrainian troops in this Vuhlyirsk power plant, essentially. So that's what's going on here. Next, let's actually go south. Let's see what's going on west of Donetsk, and situation here is on hold. Just exchange of artillery fire, low intensity fighting. There's nothing really, no changes. The same goes true for Zaporizhia front line. This is the whole look of the Zaporizhia front line. Also artillery shelling, low intensity fighting, and as for the same reason as what's going on east of Kharkiv, west of Donetsk, all of the reserves are being channeled towards Severodonetsk area by both sides. We don't have perfect statistics, but in our estimate at this point, that both sides have probably between, let's say, 65 to 75% of their troop concentrated in that area, and where there is heavy intensity of fighting. So everything else is sort of secondary relative to that area right now. So now let's look at the Kherson bridgehead, and again the same situation as everywhere else. Just artillery shelling, basically low intensity fighting, nothing major going on here. Both sides digging in, and that's essentially it. There are also some like rumors being spread that Ukrainian army is close to Kherson, almost liberating Kherson. That is actually not true. This is where the front line goes. This is totally misguided Ukrainian propaganda. We don't have any logical explanation because it really hurts. Why it's being done is beyond us. Okay, thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.